In the world of Five Nights at Freddy's fan games, there are few more iconic than Five Nights at Candy's 3. As the most well-received game in the original Five Nights at Candy's series, Five Nights at Candy's 3 features gameplay most reminiscent of FNAF 4, where you fight off nightmarish monster animatronics in a bedroom. However, instead of simply closing the doors on the animatronics, FNAC 3 has a much more unique way of dealing with threats. You're forced to let them in, and then track them with your flashlight, kind of like an FPS game. For the time, this was a really unique take on the typical FNAF formula, but over the years, Five Nights at Candy's 3 would evolve and go on to have one of the highest skill ceilings in any FNAF game. This is my quest to perfect Five Nights at Candy's 3. This is a video about my story with one of the most influential games on my channel, a game that I've returned to again and again to seek harder and harder challenges. But to understand how we've reached the point of pixel pointers and complex cycles, we have to go back to the original Five Nights at Candy's 3. Throughout the main game of FNAC 3, there are only two primary threats: Rat and Cat. Rat functions as the main antagonist, entering your room from three separate entrances on the left, middle, and right sides of the room. Upon entering the room, you'll have to hold your flashlight on Rat's head while he twitches around trying to dodge. If you can keep up with Rat well enough, the attack will conclude. From here, you'll have to lure him out from under the bed, and the cycle continues. Cat is much simpler, just appearing on either side of the bed, and a quick flash of the light sends him away. On its own, FNAC 3 is a fun, scary, and relatively casual experience, and the community reception reflected that. The game completely exploded in popularity among Let's Players, and even today, it survives as one of those quote-unquote elite ball knowledge topics in TikTok comment sections. Aside from some extra nights, that was essentially FNAC 3, but that isn't where this game's story ends. Long after FNAC 3, and FNAF as a whole faded from the YouTube gaming spotlight, a niche community began to develop that was dedicated to creating extremely hard FNAF max modes. Some came from original fan games, others from mods of existing titles. Eventually, FNAC would undergo the same treatment, when Mr. Manatee, Nephorite, and Sunken Studios would create the FNAC But Better series. FNAC But Better was a new and unique take on the existing FNAC games. While the originals were primarily focused on horror, FNAC But Better emphasizes gameplay, giving characters that were largely just clones of each other in the base games more interesting and unique mechanics. While FNAC 2 and especially FNAC 1 have also been pushed extremely far in difficulty and will definitely be addressed in future videos, we're here to talk about the game that has had by far the most development, FNAC 3 But Better. FNAC 3 But Better took the original mechanics from FNAC 3, rebalanced them, and most importantly, made the game way harder. So let's go over how everything has changed from the base game, starting with our first ranked max mode, Rat and Cat. Rat is largely unchanged from his vanilla counterpart. He enters through the same three spots, requires the player to track him, then he'll go under the bed. From here, you have to turn to the opposite side of where Rat is located under the bed to lure him out from underneath. Then, once you hear the bed creak, snap your flashlight onto his head and he'll leave the room. While Rat is mostly the same, Cat has been completely reworked, now being just as much, and as you'll see later, sometimes far more of a threat than Rat is. Cat now functions like a reverse Rat. Instead of entering the room and then going under the bed, he runs straight under the bed upon entry. After you lure him out, his new attack phase begins, and completing it forces him to leave. Now you must survive two characters with full attack phases while ensuring they never enter the room simultaneously, which results in an instant loss. Both Rat and Cat are able to be stalled at the doors with your flashlight. Stalling one while waiting for the other one to enter keeps them separated, and without much difficulty, Rat and Cat go down. This sets up the next stage in our journey with this game. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know where this is going. Perhaps one of the most recognizable max modes today is Rat and Cat All Challenges. It was the first fan game max mode that I ever made a full video on this channel, and because of that, it has become one of the most popular max modes for new players to tackle, with a whopping 157 recorded victors on the all modes list. It was a brutal challenge, being ranked as the 13th hardest max mode in the world at the time. It features not only dealing with Rat and Cat like we have been, but also 5 additional challenges that make the night much harder. Shadow Rat and Shadow Cat give Rat and Cat the appearances that you're probably more familiar with today, but this isn't just a visual change to make them harder to see. Shadow Rat and Shadow Cat are significantly stronger than their normal counterparts. Rat's buffs are more straightforward, with him twitching more often and having longer lasting attacks. Cat's changes, however, make him far more dangerous. He no longer enters the room like Rat. Instead, he begins the night under your bed and returns there after each attack, essentially making him permanent. When Cat emerges, he now has 2 attack phases, making his total attack sequence much longer than Rat's. He begins on the side he emerged from, then randomly chooses one of the other 2 positions for a second, longer phase. Because Cat can no longer be stalled at the doors, the old strategy of alternating stalls no longer works. Instead, you must follow a precise cycle. To demonstrate everything going on in this cycle, I'll be using a Lightroom mod of FNAC 3, so you can see as far as the screen reaches. Start the night by checking under the bed for Shadow Cat, then, against your instincts, move to the same side of the bed that he occupies. Since Cat starts in the room, you must complete his attack before Rat's, but Rat will still attempt to enter as usual. Normally, when one animatronic is in an attack phase, the other cannot enter. However, this rule does not apply to the first phase of Cat's attack. If Rat enters during this window, it's an instant death. So, position yourself on Cat's side and prepare to move when you hear Rat knocking. The moment you hear Rat's knocks, sweep over the 3 entry points to stall him. After stalling Rat, Cat will emerge and you can begin his attack. Once Cat is cleared, Rat will attempt to enter again. This time, it is absolutely critical that you don't stall Rat. Let him into the room and complete his attack. If you stall Rat, the bed phase later on will be desynced and you will lose. I fucking stall him? Oh my god, did I fucking stall him? I think I fucking stalled him. I fucking stalled him. Oh my god. Now, once Rat's attack is complete, Rat and Cat will both be under the bed. Check which side Rat occupies, as he will always be opposite Cat. If you see Rat, go to the opposite side. If you see Cat, stay on the same side. Wait for Rat to emerge and clear him normally. This completes one cycle. To transition cleanly into the next, remain on the side where Rat was cleared and prepare to stall him again. Ensure that you hear Rat knocking and Cat emerging. Sweep Rat's entry points, snap to Cat's head, and you're back at the start of the cycle. This will be the cycle that we use going forward with Rat and Cat, but there are some additional challenges that throw some extra components into the cycle. Up until now, I haven't mentioned the tape player that you use to progress the nights faster, as it wasn't necessary to complete each night. Hard Cassette changes that entirely. The in-universe explanation for the tape player is that it plays Mary Schmidt's sleep music, which I guess makes her less insane, because it makes the night go by much faster. Hard Cassette, however, removes the night speed up feature and makes playing the tape essential to stay awake. When the tape stops or finishes, a purple hue begins creeping in, slowly limiting your visibility. If you don't restart the tape within about 30 seconds, you pass out and lose the night. Classic Cat reintroduces Cat's original FNAC 3 mechanic, refining it to make him more dangerous. When Classic Cat is on, the normal Cat remains active. There are just two versions now. Classic Cat will randomly choose a side of the bed and advance faster or slower depending on your position. If you're on the opposite side of the room, he progresses very quickly. From the center, he moves slowly, and if you stand on his side, he freezes completely. Unlike Vanilla Cat, when you shine your flashlight on Classic Cat, you don't fully get rid of him, you just move him to the other side of the bed. This adds a bit more depth to the already complicated cycle, because now you have to make sure that you never separate Classic Cat from Rat or Cat's main attacks. The solution is to keep Classic Cat on the same side as Rat during the bed phase. That way, Shadow Cat's major attack will occur on Classic Cat's side at best, or in the center at worst. After Shadow Cat's attack ends, check Classic Cat and move him if Rat is about to enter on the opposite side. Hard Cassette and Classic Cat definitely both add their unique challenges to the game. Hard Cassette pretty much increases the night length by a factor of 1.5, and Classic Cat forces you to think and use your brain a bit instead of just tracking Rat and Cat with pure mechanics. But neither of these are responsible for the difficulty that Rat and Cat All Challenges is known for. There is one more challenge that is so wickedly unbalanced with the rest in difficulty that it had to be nerfed in later versions. And that, of course, is the laser pointer. For all of the challenges that we've gone over so far, they've only really altered one core element of the FNAC 3 gameplay loop in order to make it harder. Shadow Rat and Cat just buff Rat and Cat respectively, Hard Cassette makes the night longer, and Classic Cat makes those in-between attack moments a bit trickier. Laser Pointer makes everything harder. Laser Pointer is a very simple change. It decreases the visibility of your flashlight by about half. This on its own is mildly annoying, as now it's a bit harder to see where Rat and Cat dodge during their attacks. But it is nowhere near as game-changing as Laser Pointer's second change, decreasing the hitboxes of everything in the game by 50%. In a game built entirely on aim and speed, cutting the hitboxes in half during attacks, bed phases, and Classic Cat transitions dramatically increases the difficulty at every point in the cycle. So much so that Rat and Cat All Challenges with the unnerfed Laser Pointer has half as many victors as the nerfed version. When I first attempted Rat and Cat All Challenges about a year and a half ago, I cleared everything in a day. Until Laser Pointer. Adjusting to it took 4 days. It forces you to study Rat and Cat on a technical level and optimize every single movement you make. The problem with Laser Pointer is that Rat and Cat's hitboxes are now so small that reacting to where they dodge is no longer an option. You have to learn the art of prediction. You see, the way that Rat and Cat determine if you successfully complete an attack is through an invisible progress bar, and a move's remaining counter. When you aren't hovering over Rat and Cat's heads, your health bar will decrease very quickly, but when you are over their heads, your health bar will slowly fill up. To make the game a bit more fair, your health bar will also pause when Rat and Cat are mid-movement. So your health won't begin to decrease until their movement has fully completed and your cursor is not over their hitbox. And this is what we can take advantage of with prediction-based tracking. The moment that you think Rat and Cat are about to move to a different location, randomly guess one of the other two positions that they can go to. Personally, I like to always guess the other bottom position if I'm on the bottom, or bottom left if I'm currently on top. Then, right as they move, flick your cursor directly to that position before they stop there. If the prediction hits and you guess correctly, they'll never have a chance to decrease your health bar, allowing you to regain health. If you don't guess correctly, flick to the other hitbox that Rat and Cat could be at to ensure minimal health loss. To apply this consistently, you must know the exact locations of all 3 hitboxes, even when the characters aren't there. With Laser Pointer shrinking those hitboxes, you can see how this becomes a serious challenge. Though, with enough practice and aim training, I was able to conquer Rat and Cat All Challenges, making for a very memorable video on this channel. As you can tell from the length of this video though, that is nowhere near where the story of this game ends. Keep Rat and Cat in the back of your mind as we'll come back to them later. And as a side note, if you've been enjoying this video so far, it would mean the world to me if you subscribed, liked, commented, and if you're able to, hype the video. It helps me out a ton. It's completely free and you can always unsubscribe if you want. Along with this usual promotion section, I also want to mention the new structure of my 3 channels. Previously, the second channel was just used to shitpost and post raw complete completions for other max modes. But I've realized that as time has gone on, the stakes for what classifies as a main channel video have gotten higher and higher, now being hour-long hopeless pursuit level challenges or insane technical deep dives into vanilla FNAF games. But I've noticed that a lot of my audience was missing those old Bones videos that were still hard challenges, don't get me wrong, but weren't nearly as crazy as the full-blown movies we have today, both in scope and difficulty. So the second channel, the Bones 242, will now feature fully edited videos similar to those early Bones videos, and maybe some other videos that aren't even challenges that I've just wanted to make but never really had the place to release them. I've been beating so many max modes that don't get turned into videos, and I needed some place to share them with my audience, so I think the second channel is the best spot for that. There's already a video up on Lost Location Custom Night, a really cool and unique fan game, so once you're done with this video, I'd highly recommend subscribing to that channel and checking out that video. It's only 2 clicks away. Just click the icons next to the subscribe button where the collaboration is and sub to both of the channels there. As for raw completions and proof videos, those have now been moved to the VODs channel, so if you want to view the full uncut completions for any of these videos, they will now be on my third channel. Thank you so much, sorry for the long channel update, let's get back to the video. With Rat and Cat all challenges done, I now want to cover a max mode that's arguably been one of the most influential max modes in my FNAF career, but has seen almost no main channel coverage, and that is Puppet Master All Challenges. At the start of this video, I sort of glossed over the bonus nights in FNAC 3, and really only focused on the Rat and Cat sections. Well, there's one bonus night that had its meta pushed just as far as Rat and Cat did. You see, the in-universe storyline of Candy's 3 is very similar to FNAF. You have a young child trying to escape some sort of trauma from an old-time children's entertainment company. In the same way that Purple Guy was the main antagonist from the first few FNAF games, Candy's has their own equivalent. Take the purple guy from FNAF, make a way better final showdown with him, and you get Vinny from Five Nights at Candy's. Yo, it's actually kind of tough, I'm not gonna lie, it's actually kind of tough. Vinny has the same core gameplay that Rat and Cat do. You have to track him with your flashlight. However, Vinny has way more variability in his positions than Rat and Cat, and can attack for much longer periods of time. Instead of being limited to 3 positions and flicking between them, Vinny moves in circles, forcing you to track him in circular motions. Not only does he have trickier movement, he can also jump between different parts of the room mid-attack, forcing you to be able to adjust to a new distance between you and him multiple times throughout the attack. In the but better version of Candy's 3, Vinny also has his own dedicated mode, Puppet Master, in which he's buffed up and inherits many of the same challenges from Rat and Cat. Like Rat and Cat, Vinny receives a direct upgrade in his Shadow counterpart. Shadow Vinny demands a completely different aiming style compared to Rat and Cat, and even Vanilla Vinny. You see, in the world of aiming, there are 2 main types, flicking and tracking. In games like Counter-Strike and Valorant, aiming is largely based on flicking, where you have to snap your mouse to a target right as you see them and hopefully hit them before they can react and hit you. Tracking, on the other hand, is emphasized in games where interactions last longer, and when you have more diverse movement options, such as Fortnite, modern Call of Duty, and Minecraft PvP. Most FNAF max modes lean heavily towards flicking, with only occasional mechanics that require slow cursor tracking. So far, we've only dealt with flick-based aiming. Shadow Vinny changes that by allowing him to slowly turn in addition to his usual spin and stop behavior. This creates mix-ups that can easily catch players off guard. Vinny might slow turn clockwise, then suddenly fast turn in the opposite direction, forcing you to react, track his movement, snap to his new position, and resume tracking. Unlike Rat and Cat, Vinny's difficulty is progressive, with him having more mix-up options and attacks as the night progresses. At 12 AM, Vinny is capable of doing slow turns, fast turns, and occasionally dead stops. At 1 AM, he gains the ability to change direction mid-slow turn. At 2 AM, he gains a major speed buff during slow turns. At 3 AM, he gains a new under-the-bed flick attack similar to Rat and Cat. Keep that one in mind. That one will be awfully important later. At 4 AM, his slow turns are shortened, lengthening his attacks, and at 5 AM, the slow turns are removed entirely, with constant flicking required. Earlier patches push this scaling even further. In version 2.5.9, Vinny goes completely ballistic at 5 AM, forcing continuous tracking through non-stop fast turns. This extreme progression gives Puppet Master All Challenges a reputation as one of the most nerve-intensive max modes, leading to some insanely hype reactions. Along with Shadow Vinny, another challenge unique to the Puppet Master Night is Monstergami. In the base game of Candies 3, there was a secret Easter egg ending you could get by knocking over the origami cat throughout each main night. The origami cat was your guide and only real ally throughout the entire game. He transforms into some sort of monster, forcing you to stay awake with him forever, though we never get to see him or interact with him in-game, we just see his eyes as an ending cutscene. The Monstergami challenge brings him into the night alongside Vinny, completing the cycle for Puppet Master All Challenges. Thankfully, this cycle is far simpler than Rat and Cat's. Start by playing the tape and completing Vinny's attack. The moment he retreats under the bed, rewind the tape. Monstergami spawns at this exact moment and must be flashed for 7.5 movements before his kill timer expires. If you fail, he steals the tape player for the rest of the night. No. Oh my god. Once Monstergami is dealt with, see what side of the bed Vinny is on, move to the opposite side, then go back down to the tape player. We're going to need to rewind the tape for as long as possible here. Since Vinny's attack phase is so long, jumping 4 times throughout the room each attack, there will be a short portion at the end of the attack where the tape player has fully run out. The bed phase isn't long enough to fully rewind the tape like Rat and Cat All Challenges, so maximizing rewind time is critical. We can do this by using a sound cue in the Monstergami song to indicate when to stop rewinding and play the tape again. Just before restarting the tape, you'll hear 3 rising notes. On the 3rd note, Vinny emerges to begin the next attack. Make sure you're out from under the bed when he does. From here, repeat the cycle. At 3 AM, the cycle changes slightly. Instead of checking Vinny's position under the bed after Monstergami, you complete his new bed phase attack. This phase extends the available rewind time, allowing for a full tape rewind once finished. Alongside the night-specific challenges, Hard Cassette and, of course, Laser Pointer return for Puppet Master All Challenges. I'd argue Hard Cassette here is even more dangerous than in Rat and Cat All Challenges. In Rat and Cat, Hard Cassette mainly extended the night to about 8 real-life minutes. In Puppet Master, it not only lengthens the night, but also works in tandem with Monstergami. Remember that if you fail to complete Monstergami's attack, he steals your tape player. Before, this was a mild annoyance, because now you couldn't speed up the night, but now it's a death sentence, as you'll black out without it. Since Vinny's attacks are so long, the purple visual effect from the Hard Cassette also limits your visibility a bit near the end of an attack, and combining that with nerves and the rapid movements of a 5 AM attack, you can see how it becomes a problem. But of course, like Rat and Cat All Challenges, the laser pointer completely carries the difficulty of the mode. Not only does the decrease in hitboxes make tracking Vinny significantly harder, the lack of visuals is much more threatening here. When dealing with Rat and Cat's attack phases, even with limited visuals, you can still use your speed and reaction time to quickly locate Rat or Cat, as when they move, they only have 2 possible positions they can go to from any location in their triangular movement pattern. Vinny, however, can go anywhere in his circular pattern. You're forced to visually track him and locate him before snapping to his location accurately. Generally, the best strategy for this is to spin your cursor once in the direction that Vinny fast turns, then once you spot him, snap to his location with a second spin. This strategy is called the 2-spin strategy. Some players like to spin more than twice to try and further reveal Vinny's position to make aiming easier, but this is ultimately less efficient than the 2-spin strategy and tends to struggle keeping up with Vinny's speed in later hours. With all of these challenges combined, the progressive difficulty aspect and the wicked nerve control, Puppet Master All Challenges is generally considered to be a bit harder than Rat and Cat All Challenges, though they are close. With a few more hours to learn Puppet Master All Challenges, I was able to complete it, completely fluking the 5 AM hour. So is that it? We've done both of the max modes in Candies 3. Well, I've been hiding something from you this entire video. So far, this video has been kind of flat. There's been no montages or hype. And that's because, by modern FNAF max mode standards, everything we've gone over in this video is considered easy. When I first covered Rat and Cat All Challenges a year ago, it stood at 13th on the max mode list, with Puppet Master All Challenges right above it. But a year later, and with the creation of the All Modes list, things have changed quite a bit. Let's play a game. How far do you think Rat and Cat All Challenges has fallen from top 13? Comment your answer down below, or just comment anything in general. This is me just trying to engagement bait you, because I want more engagement so I get more views. Yeah, that's why. Well, it isn't top 50, it isn't top 100, it isn't even top 200. Rat and Cat All Challenges with the original laser pointer sits at number 397. And looking back, this does make sense. 1 year ago, I was pretty much a max mode noob. My aiming setup was complete garbage, and I still managed to beat Rat and Cat All Challenges in 4 to 5 days.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna roast your game a little bit, man. What is this? Yeah, I don't fuck with the motor's done. The wheels are bad. I fuck with the J's though. The J's mad nice. You know?
Come on, man. What you doing about shoes?
No, it's for research.
If you want to know what it takes to get a top 13 these days, well, Hopeless Greed is only a few spots away. So why have we spent so much time going over max modes that usually I wouldn't even consider worth turning into a main channel video? Ever since the Hopeless Pursuit video, I felt that things on this channel have needed to be more grand, even more difficult, with every video pushing the limits of what's possible in a game, with a few occasional exceptions. That's why in recent times, the frequency of my challenge videos has slowed down considerably, but trust me, we are nowhere near finished with Five Nights at Candies 3. In the Hopeless Pursuit video, I stressed how big of a jump Hopeless Pursuit was from 50/20 Deluxe No Death Coin. Even though the gameplay didn't change at all, just making everyone faster and more frequent was enough to carry it miles ahead of the original. And what if I told you, in Five Nights at Candies 3, by simply changing one challenge, we can turn this game into an actual nightmare? Everything that you've seen so far has been the tutorial compared to Rat and Cat and Puppet Master All Challenges with the Pixel Pointer. The Pixel Pointer takes the already small laser pointer hitboxes that were carrying the difficulty of both Rat and Cat and Puppet Master All Challenges and shrinks them by another 50%. For comparison, here's a visual of what the hitboxes look like for the flashlight, laser pointer, and pixel pointer. And oh boy, don't even get me started on Shadow Cat with this pixel pointer. Originally implemented as a Joke Impossible mode, typing in TORTURE on the menu of FNAC 3 but better changes the laser pointer into the pixel pointer. This one change causes Rat and Cat and Puppet Master All Challenges to ascend the list by nearly 300 spots. And at the level that we are at now, we're only a hop, skip, and a jump away from modes like Hopeless Pursuit. So let's go back to the max mode that started it all on this channel, but with it being so much harder. When I was covering normal Rat and Cat All Challenges, I omitted a lot of technical details relating to how Rat and Cat work, as honestly, you don't really need to know that much outside of here's the cycle and get good to beat that mode. But now, with Pixel Pointer, you're going to need every single optimization you can get. You see, beyond just being harder to hit and track, the hitboxes being smaller in Rat and Cat All Challenges Pixel Pointer have an added buff that is kind of implicit. When most players think of Rat and Cat All Challenges, they usually see it as a precision and aim-based max mode, but in reality, speed speed is just as, if not even more important than your precision. We know that rat and cat both have their respective health bars when you start an attack, and if we analyze what an attack looks like at extremely slow speeds, you'll begin to see what I'm talking about. Because the hitbox is so small and pixel pointer, when rat and cat dodge to a new location, their hitbox is going to leave your cursor sooner. And even if you guess properly and get a prediction, your cursor will reach their hitbox slower than if you were playing with laser pointer or the normal flashlight. You can have perfect aim, but if you aren't ludicrously fast, you'll bleed progress throughout the attack, which can end in a death. This is amplified by something that's largely not a factor in the standard Candies 3 max modes. RNG. The difficulty of Rat and Cat All Challenge's pixel pointer is heavily dependent on your RNG, to the point where, with bad enough RNG, the easiest attack patterns can still result in death. You can see this rarely with Rat, as he can be extremely fast but still pretty consistent. However, Shadow Cat is an entirely different beast. It's hard to put into words just how hard Shadow Cat carries this duo. It's on the same level as Ye-Girl carrying the entire One Night at Frogger's roster, and to figure out why, we have to analyze the minute differences in how Rat and Cat's attacks play out. When Rat enters the room, he'll always start in the top middle position of his movement triangle. Then, to start the attack, you'll need to flash his head in this topmost position for a full second. From here, Rat will choose his next position to go to, then roll a 1 in 3 to see if he's going to twitch. If this chance fails, he'll move to the next location, but if it succeeds, he'll move and then immediately move again, rolling the same 1 in 3 and 2 in 3 chances to either move and wait for the player to flash his head or twitch. This means that Rat can twitch multiple times in a row, but he can only twitch 10 times total in the attack. When Rat does stop moving and you're about to flash him, you'll have to have your flashlight on his head for a total of 16 frames, or about a quarter of a second. I stressed before how important it is to snap your flashlight as fast as possible to the next location that Rat or Cat could be at, as now we'll be bleeding progress with an extremely small hitbox. But if you can ingrain this quarter-second timing in your muscle memory, Rat can become reasonably consistent. Overall, we can see that Rat is very heavily speed-based, but his consistent flash time, limited twitches, and full second of free progress at the start of every attack makes it so that with enough practice, you can ingrain his timings in your muscle memory and get very consistent with him. Now, take all of that consistency and throw it out the window. Unlike Rat, Shadow Cat does not play fair. The first difference between Shadow Rat and Shadow Cat is right when their attacks begin. After you finish Shadow Cat's first phase and he moves to a different position within the room, his head position is randomized. It will be one of the 2 positions that his head wasn't in when the first phase of the attack concluded. This means that off the bat, you're going to have to hit a 50-50 prediction just to start the attack. What's worse, every single move of the attack is now completely dictated by RNG. Rat will always wait for a quarter of a second when you're flashing his head, but Cat's flash time has significant variability. He can either have a flash time of 0 frames and twitch like Rat does, 8 frames, 16 frames, or 24 frames. If he rolls a 0 frame flash time and twitches, his next movement will always be 8 frames or higher. That sounds like it would be a check against RNG, but trust me, 8 frames is not a lot of time. And there's nothing stopping Cat from chaining 0 and 8 frame movements over and over again. Okay, dude, no way, man. No! Which, even if you play perfectly and move at hyperspeed, you're just not gonna survive. Combine this with the randomized head positions between Cat's phases, and you can get some absolutely wicked Shadow Cat RNG. Shadow Cat's attack RNG also introduced a different problem that I started to have. I mentioned before how when tracking Rat, your brain is able to internalize the amount of time that you need to wait on his head before he twitches. But since Cat's head time is random, you can't rely on muscle memory. For example, let's say you just started out a Cat attack. He was a little rough at the start, so he gave you an 8 frame into an 8 frame into a 0 frame. Within that second or so, your brain had adjusted to Cat's fast speed, and now, even though you're not trying to, you're going to be expecting another 8 frame. Suddenly, Cat decides to be nice and give you a 24 frame movement, but because you've already been conditioned for a short 8 frame movement at the beginning of the attack, you flick off anticipating a movement, except Cat doesn't move. And by the time you realize what's happened, you've already ran out of health and it's game over. What the f was that? What the actual f was that? Oh my god, that was just that. What are you doing, bro? What are you doing? What was that? What? You can make the argument that base Shadowcat has this problem regardless of what size your flashlight is, but it gets exponentially worse the smaller that Cat's hitbox is. Even if you get incorrectly conditioned with the base flashlight or even the laser pointer, the hitbox is so big that you might still be able to finish off Cat's movement by the time your cursor leaves his hitbox. This was by far my biggest problem with Pixel Pointer. Not only was it extremely difficult to react to Cat's constantly changing movement timer, it was also very frustrating. If you get an 8 frame and 0 frame chain from Cat, you can just blame that on RNG. After all, Rat and Cat All Challenge's Pixel Pointer is in that threshold with the vanilla games, where even if you play perfectly, you're still going to get some unwinnable situations every now and then. But getting mentally juked by Cat is all on you, and for me, this felt like a straight up wall that I encountered in this mode. It was so bad at the start that I was even dying on the left side of the room, which is far and away the easiest side to deal with. I tried a bunch of strategies in an attempt to not get tricked by Shadowcat. First, I asked a previous victor of the mode in the AML Discord server, which you should totally join if you're interested in max modes. Anyway, I had asked a previous victor, Swag H, one of the most underrated FNAF players of all time, and he said the best way to track Cat was by ear. Whenever Rat and Cat move, they always make this sound. So, Swag H's strategy was to isolate all of the audio that plays during an attack and just focus on listening for that sound. When it plays, then you can move your mouse. I tried this, and it did somewhat fix my issue of misjudging Cat's move time, but at the cost of bleeding progress over the course of the attack. If I wasn't guessing when Cat was going to move, I wasn't going to be getting any crazy predictions. So if Cat decided to even lightly sprinkle in some 8 and 0 frame movements, I couldn't take the gradual progress loss and I would end up failing the attack. Truthfully, I didn't know how I could get over this wall of Shadowcat, so I figured that I would just step back and practice. When I made my first Rat and Cat All Challenges video, PXH Ghost would develop the Rat and Cat All Challenges practice mod, which allowed you to practice each individual attack from Rat or Cat on any side of the room, including Cat's 2 phases. This is a huge time saver, as it allows you to practice the hardest sides of the room for both Rat and Cat without needing to get the RNG to do so like in the base game. For me personally, here's how I would rank the difficulty of each attack location. Left side Rat is by far the easiest. It's 100% winnable and shouldn't give you much trouble. Right side Rat I'd say is next. Though right side Rat is much harder to track than left side Rat visually, the distance between Rat's positions is still small enough that with good speed you can almost always catch him. For me, left side Cat is next. While this is the easiest side to aim and has the largest hitbox, an unlucky Cat can still catch you off guard here. Mid-Rat is next, in my opinion the only dangerous position that Rat can be in. If Rat continuously counters your predictions with twitches, or just never goes to the position that you guess, you'll bleed health and eventually lose. You're crazy. Fuck off. This might be because I'm just not fast enough, but the middle of the room has the furthest distance between head positions for both Rat and Cat, so it's much easier to bleed progress. All 4 of these situations are very consistent with enough time, but right side Cat and mid Cat are where things get significantly harder. As for which one is the definitive hardest in the night, I honestly couldn't tell you. I've heard people say it's either, but personally I found them to be around equally as difficult. Based on this rating, I began to train in the practice mod, and made it a point to never even bother playing the real game until I'd improved my consistency in the practice mod. A night in Rat and Cat All Challenges is 8 minutes long, but in terms of cycles, it's roughly 10 cycles total, meaning to survive a night, you need to be consistent enough to survive 10 cat attacks and 10 rat attacks in a row. I weighted my training in the practice mod to favor harder attack placements more, doing 9 out of 10 attacks in the middle and right side for both rat and cat. I knew that if I could survive 10 attacks in a row weighted to give me worse luck than the average game, I'd be able to survive a real game no problem. So I trained and trained. I got a tiny bit better, but I was still facing the same problems that I had where I would bleed time or just flat out die to RNG with Shadowcat. Even though I was set on only playing the practice mod until I was consistent enough, it was time for me to do a weekly stream. If you guys don't know, every week on Thursdays or Fridays, depending on if I'm currently at school or not, I try to stream on both my main channel and my Twitch. Usually it's max modes, but recently I've just been playing some games for fun and interacting with my chat, which really is the best part of streaming.
And I'm always trying to be efficient with my battery pack. Like, we all know that only using one hand uses less power than two hands. Where did it go? I swear to God, if I clicked out of the fucking map. Oh man.
Anyway, it was a streaming day and I'd figure I'd kill 2 birds with 1 stone and start grinding Rat and Cat All Challenges pixel pointer on stream. I hadn't played the real mode almost at all up to this point. I had a personal best of 1 IM, but that was just a lucky PB that I got from getting 2 left side cats in a row for the first hour. So I started up the stream, and on my first run, this happened. What the f-
Shit. No! Oh wow, okay. So we got our stream goal immediately. That was crazy. That was like Markiplier luck, dude. I got left side cat like 3 times in a row. What is that? That's a 1 in 64. Holy shit, dude.
A new PB immediately after starting up real attempts was a good sign. Even if I hadn't felt like I was improving during practice, this was evidence that I was. Though it was sort of a fake PB, as I had gotten 3 left side cats in a row, eliminating Cat's 2 much harder attacks. Thankfully, I would redeem myself later in the stream by getting a mid 2 IM, this time with more realistic cat attacks. After the success of the first stream, I continued to play, slowly inching up to a 3 AM PB, but still facing the same issues with mid cat and right cat. I just needed one more strategy to make them a bit more consistent. And this was when I discovered the Perrin strat. Perrin is a player that has already beaten Rat and Cat All Challenges pixel pointer, and she had invented a strategy that can reduce some of Cat's RNG, but only on the middle and left side. Though hitboxes are the much more important change going from laser pointer to pixel pointer, the limited visibility of the pixel pointer also doesn't help. For this reason, FNAC 3 players use a strategy called gamma adjusting, cranking up the brightness of their monitors as high as possible in order to see Rat and Cat a bit better. This allows you to faintly see Rat and Cat through the darkness of the night, and while their hitboxes are still very small, we can at least gauge where they are a bit better. Where Perrin's optimization comes in is the transition between Cat's 2 phases. When Rat and Cat enter the room, they'll only start their attack if you're looking at them. The way the game verifies this is by checking if your mouse pointer is in a specific range around Rat and Cat. On the middle and left sides of the room, you can move your cursor around this trigger box, then locate where Cat's random head position is, and flick straight to it to start the attack. eliminating some of the RNG where you have to guess Cat's first head position. Unfortunately, you can't do this on the right side, so it only makes 2 of Cat's possible positions more consistent, one of which was already pretty easy to begin with. The fact that we are able to combat mid-Cat's RNG is very nice though. Because of the way Shadow Cat's 2-phase attacks work, mid-Cat is the most common second phase he can do. So this should lead to a bit of an improvement in dealing with Cat's RNG in the early second phase. I kept playing and getting used to using this strategy. It improved my consistency a bit, but really, Cat RNG was still able to end my runs out of nowhere. I spent the next week or so playing on and off, working on other videos and other games. Soon enough, the day for the second stream came. My personal best was still 3 AM, but on this day, I was on fire. I had just beaten a new hardest max mode, Hopeless Pursuit release version no power generator, and I was wondering if I could knock out 2 extremely high level max modes from different games in the same day. So I started streaming. I was playing, and I couldn't tell you exactly what happened, but something with Shadow Cat's movements, right in that moment, it all clicked. I think my brain had finally mastered Shadow Cat's movements. Rat was consistent because I always knew when he was going to move, but now I felt like I was able to visualize the possible times at which Cat could move. If he didn't move on an 8 frame, I could anticipate and feel what a 16 or 24 frame movement would look like, then react to it. Sometimes even hitting a completely perfect prediction with no health loss on a fundamentally random character. If I could hold it together, this might just be one of the craziest days I could ever have with max modes. This run was lining up to look like just how my first Rat and Cat All Challenges win was all that time ago, fluking the night from 3 AM. All I had to do was keep my nerves in control.
No! Oh my god. Fucking idiot, dude. That was right on the border of, like, a bedside or not. I should have just gambled it, bro. God damn.
Unfortunately, even though I was on fire, today was not the day for me to win. Strangely enough, it wasn't even Shadow Cat that killed me. It was the second and extremely underrated part of Pixel Pointer's difficulty, the bed phase. By this point, I had pretty much mastered Shadow Cat. I don't know what clicked inside my brain to be able to hit perfect predictions and survive RNG I wouldn't have even thought to be possible, but attacks were no longer the concern. The time between attacks was. In current versions of Rat and Cat All Challenges, the bed phase just serves as a break time for the player in between attacks. Find where Rat is, lure him out, replay the tape, lure Cat out and stall Rat. Nothing too difficult, it's always the exact same cycle. However, on Pixel Pointer, this cycle is significantly more complicated. You see, shortly after my initial video on Rat and Cat All Challenges was made, FNAC 3 But Better would be updated to nerf the laser pointer, changing the laser pointer from a visual and hitbox change to just a visual change. You were still able to access the old laser pointer by typing in torture on the menu. However, on previous versions, this was how you'd access the pixel pointer. So this laser pointer nerf completely removed the pixel pointer. Along with nerfing the laser pointer, a later update would add a nerf to the bed phase, in which Rat and Cat were always guaranteed to sync up and stay on cycle. Now, in order to even play pixel pointer, we have to play on the 3.0.0 copy of the game, in which this bed phase change isn't implemented. Now, this is going to get a little bit complicated, but it's extremely important to understand how the bed phase works for Pixel Pointer. We've already established that when Rat and Cat are in the room at the same time, it's an instant death, and this also applies to the bed phase. If Cat comes up from the bed when you're luring Rat out, it's an instant death. But it isn't quite that simple. Take a look at this situation. Here, Cat comes up from under the bed before Rat was even at the doors to be stalled. So, as we were doing Cat's first attack, Rat entered the room, causing a death. The reason this happens has to do with Rat's variability to enter the room after Cat's attack. Once you finish Cat's second attack in the cycle, Cat will immediately go under the bed. From here, Cat will take exactly 32 seconds to come up from the bed again. This means that within those 32 seconds, we have to do Rat's attack, move Classic Cat in between attacks, and fully clear Rat from the bed, while still having enough time for Rat to appear again at the doors so he can be stalled and resume the cycle. Unfortunately for us, Rat is not as orderly as we'd like him to be. After Cat's attack is done, Rat can be fairly random in his time to enter the room. Sometimes he can enter instantly, and other times he'll wait before entering. Not only is his enter time random, the length of his attack has extreme variability. Recall that Rat can twitch a total of 10 times per attack, and since a twitch is an instant movement, Rat giving you an unfavorable twitch pattern or avoiding your prediction will lead to the attack being much longer. Once Rat is cleared from the room, he has even more variability in his time to come up from the bed, which can either be 8 seconds or 8.5 seconds. And trust me, these 0.5 seconds do make a difference. We always want Rat's attacks to be as fast as possible, but this isn't something that we can control. If Rat decides to wait on you, we're going to have to adapt by changing how we play the bed phase. This is what's known as bedside manipulation. The best way to understand bedside manipulation is to look at the problem that we're presented with, then see what factors we as the player can control to influence it. The problem is that Rat and Cat are now desynced from the typical cycle. Rat was too slow in his attack, so now we'll be starting Cat's first attack before we even have a chance to stall Rat. We aren't able to control the length of Rat's attack, his enter time, or his random peak time, and we aren't able to control Cat's peak time either. The only factor that we can control is how long it takes for Rat to go from peeking out from under the bed to leaving the room entirely. You see, when Rat peeks out from under the bed, a 90-frame timer begins counting down. By shining your flashlight on Rat's head, you can increase this timer by 1 per frame. If you don't shine your flashlight on him before this timer reaches 0, you'll lose. Once this timer reaches 200, he'll leave the room. However, we can first catch Rat's 90-frame timer by flashing him for a bit, then take our flashlight off of his head and quickly put it back on. This gives us a tiny bit of control over how long Rat takes to go from the bedside to fully leaving the room. Though you should be extremely careful with how long you take to stall Rat. Once he peeks out from under the bed, if he isn't gone by 6 seconds, his stall check will activate and he'll jump scare you anyway. Sometimes this can get really close and make for some funny interactions.
Really? Come on, he was gone, bro.
So now we are able to control one factor. We can delay Rat's leaving a bit. But how does this help us? This entire time, we've been trying to speed up Rat's attack and bed phase process, but this only delays it even further. Well, if we stall Rat for long enough and Cat is just about ready to come up, we can do this. By stalling Rat to the point where Cat is just about to peek when Rat leaves, we can go down, play the tape, then instantly flick to Cat's head to begin his first attack, completely skipping the part of the cycle where we stall Rat at the doors. Once you've begun Cat's first phase, it's a race to complete this portion of the attack before Rat is able to enter the room. For the first time ever, this is when we want Cat to give us 8-frame and 0-frame movements. This speeds up the first phase of his attack and gives us more wiggle room to finish the phase before Rat enters. This is why it's so crucial to try and time Rat's leave and Cat's peek as close together as we can, and we do this through a sound cue. When Shadow Cat is under the bed, he'll make this droning humming sound. When he's about to come up from under the bed, as a warning to the player, this humming sound gets louder. The exact point of when this sound gets louder is a perfect cue for where the player should be in the bed phase. If the sound gets louder when you're already on Rat's head and actively getting rid of him after he's peaked, you're okay and you can keep your cursor on Rat's head for a normal cycle in which you stall him later. If the sound gets louder before your cursor is on Rat's head, you should stall him and perform the bedside manipulation. There was one problem that I was facing with this situation though, and that's when Cat's humming gets louder right as you're about to go onto Rat's head. This is what I like to call the dead zone. If I tried to play the cycle normally, I'd end up waiting too long for Rat to appear at the doors and die to Cat. If I tried to play it with bedside manipulation, I'd stall Rat for as long as I could, but there would be too much time in between when Rat would leave and when Cat would come up to start his attack, causing Rat to enter midway through Cat's first attack and ending in a death. No matter what I did, it seemed like this dead zone was an unwinnable situation. This was what happened on the 5 AM run on stream, and to compensate, I tried to stall Rat for a tiny bit longer than I was supposed to, which ended in a death. What's worse, you can still get bailed out by good luck if you just send it and try to do a normal cycle. Since we visit 3 of Rat's positions on our way to Cat, he's only lethal if he ends up spawning in the position furthest from Cat, forcing us to wait the longest amount of time for him. This means that at worst, this is a 1 in 2 chance to survive if you just try to YOLO it with a normal cycle. On my 5 AM run, Rat's last attack was a right side attack, and Rat can't go to the same location twice in a row, so the chance of him giving me a winnable pattern was actually 100%. But with all of the nerves after fluking so much time, I wasn't thinking this far ahead. I tried to do bedside manipulation and ended up losing the night. Okay, that was a super long explanation. Bedside manipulation is a bit hard to understand. But the point is, it's another aspect of Pixel Pointer that makes it harder than the current version. I was so afraid of bedside manipulation when I was first playing Rat and Cat All Challenges 1 year ago that I actually just YOLO'd it the entire night. I got bailed out at 4 AM with probably the only instance of good luck I've ever had in a FNAF game, and it made for a great part in that montage. However, because Pixel Pointer is a much smaller hitbox, it's going to naturally result in longer attacks from both Rat and Cat, meaning that situations where bedside manipulation is needed are much more common, so there's no avoiding it here. At this point, I had pretty much everything I needed to beat Pixel Pointer. I had the aim, I had the game sense and speed with Cat's variability, and I was pretty much as good as I could get with judging bedside manipulation. With a 5 AM already in the bag, it wasn't much longer until I finally got this run and recorded the wrong monitor.
I did it, oh my god.
This now marks the second time that I've made the critical error of beating something and not recording it. Thankfully, this isn't nearly as RNG as Night 4 was during the 7 games at once video, so I didn't freak out like I did there. I knew I had the consistency to beat it. Now, I just had to get that luck again and put it all together for one more run.
No, oh my god. No way. Please tell me I recorded it this time. I really hope I did.
And with that, Rat and Cat All Challenge's pixel pointer had been conquered. This was something that I've been looking to do for a long time, as now I finally had challenges that were considered fairly difficult beaten across 3 separate FNAF fan games. But of course, our journey with FNAC 3 isn't over just yet. We may have beaten Rat and Cat All Challenge's pixel pointer, but perfecting FNAC 3 means perfecting all of FNAC 3. You're getting a 2-for-1 special with this video, because now it's time for Puppet Master All Challenge's pixel pointer. Where Rat and Cat All Challenges is more focused on speed compared to precision, Puppet Master All Challenges pixel pointer is the inverse. I mentioned before how Rat and Cat are more flick based, but Vinny requires you to train both your flicks and your tracking. The first struggle that I had with pixel pointer in this mode was trying to track Vinny during his slow turns. The hitbox is so small that trying to move your mouse while staying within it can be really tricky, especially in the later hours of the night when Vinny starts changing directions mid-slow turn. Now, you may think that our limited visibility in PMAC pixel pointer is going to make this significantly harder than Rat and Cat All Challenge's pixel pointer. After all, Rat and Cat only have 3 possible positions in each location of the room, so even if you guess wrong, you can snap to the correct one right away. Vinny has tens of possible positions, and tracking him is extremely difficult with the limited visibility of the pixel pointer. Thankfully, in the same way that cranking your brightness can be used to combat Cat's RNG, it also helps us to make out where Vinny is a lot more clearly. Some people may consider using the gamma of the monitor in this way cheating, but I would disagree. Even if you don't think it's the right way to play, it's not the fact that it gives the player a huge advantage, it's the fact that it's completely unregulatable. In order for lists to accept player submissions, they need verification videos, but asking players to prove that they didn't use gamma for any kind of FNAC 3 mode would mean forcing them to use an external camera to record the screen of their monitor. This raises all sorts of privacy and monetary concerns, so honestly, I don't really see the issue here. The max modes are ranked based on their difficulty with gamma, and with gamma, these max modes are still considered some of the hardest in the world, rivaling the likes of even Hopeless Pursuit. Regardless, this was huge for me. For one, it's a way better viewing experience, so I knew that I could still make a video out of this without it being a black screen simulator, and 2, I can now purely focus on my aim and tracking. I'm editing this video now and I just now realized that, you guys can't see the gamma because, it wouldn't record gamma because it's on your monitor. I'll provide adequate visuals with the lights on, don't worry about it. Previously, with the flashlight and laser pointer, you could usually get away with quickly spinning to locate Vinny, then snapping to his head. But in pixel pointer, his hitbox is far too small to get away with that. Unlike Rat and Cat, Vinny doesn't use a health bar to determine whether or not you lose the attack. Instead, he has 2 different timers that are constantly running, a kill timer and a patience timer. Whenever your cursor is not on Vinny's hitbox, his kill timer begins counting down. At this point, you have 0.75 seconds to reach his head or else he will jump scare you. His patience timer is a little different. This tracks how long you're off of Vinny's head throughout the entire attack, but it isn't really relevant in this version, so we can just ignore it. The kill timer is far more dangerous. Thankfully, the kill timer can still be reset while Vinny is moving, so the best way to handle attacks in pixel pointer is to try to stay as close as possible to Vinny's hitbox while he's fast spinning, as any interaction with it will give us much more time to reset it. Within an hour of playtime, I was already progressing extremely fast on PMAC pixel pointer. I would probably attribute this to just having more hours on the Vinny side of FNAC 3 overall, since I had a lot of experience with pre-patches of this night. Honestly, Vinny himself wasn't even the hardest part of the night for me, it was the bed phase and Monstergami. When we were initially going over the strategy for the Puppet Master night, I only briefly mentioned how the bed phases change at 3 AM, and on normal Puppet Master All Challenges, the bed phases really aren't that significant, but in pixel pointer, they are much more difficult. Let's split the night into 2 halves, 12 AM to 3 AM and 3 AM to 6 AM. From 12 AM to 3 AM, we know that Vinny isn't going to be doing his bed phase attack. So after Vinny's attack is finished, we have to immediately go down to the tape player, rewind it, then go back up and deal with Monstergami. I found Monstergami to be one of, if not the hardest part of this night. You see, whenever we enter an attack phase with Rat, Cat, or Vinny, FNAC 3 but better has a quality of life feature that locks your screen with the side that you're currently on. That way, whenever you go to track someone, you don't have to constantly fight with the screen scrolling left or right. Even though Monstergami always appears in the center of the room, he doesn't activate the screen lock, so you're forced to adjust to the free scroll when dealing with him. This isn't really a problem with the flashlight or laser pointer, but with the extremely precise movements required in pixel pointer, I found the free scroll to be a bit disorienting, and oftentimes I'd either fumble with trying to rewind the tape as fast as possible, or miss a bit during Monstergami's attack, resulting in Monstergami stealing the tape and a loss. Assuming we do get past Monstergami, we're not quite out of the woods yet. Because of how small the hitbox is with pixel pointer, slowly tracking Vinny becomes a lot harder, and as a consequence of that, Vinny's overall attacks are much longer. It takes us 4 attacks to get from 12 AM to 3 AM, and if we aren't absolutely perfect with our tape rewind management, it's not uncommon to run out of the tape, or be so close to running out that we lose visibility of Vinny even with our gamma turned up. Assuming we do get past 3 AM, the difficulty balance shifts in the second half of the night, with Vinny becoming much more difficult. I found that out of every hour, Vinny was at his most dangerous at 4 AM. Some people like to argue that he's the hardest at 5 AM, and while I would agree with you that he is very difficult here, especially with the amount of nerves you'll be feeling at this point, I'd place 5 AM slightly below 4 AM in terms of difficulty. Vinny's attacks at 4 AM are the longest they are in the entire night, and he'll do slow turns, but not for very long. Oftentimes, he'll slow turn in one direction for a brief period of time, then immediately fast turn in the other direction and do a double loop, which would usually catch me off guard or at the very least mess up my tracking enough to not snap to him once he stopped. After getting to the second half of the night a few times, I figured the best way to get consistent enough with the entire night would be to practice backwards. Like Rat and Cat All Challenges, Puppet Master All Challenges also has a practice mod, which allows us to practice and choose any hour. I already had a run to 3 AM, so I figured that I'd first start out with a run from 5 AM, then 4 AM, then 3 AM. Once I had a 3 AM run, I'd have the mode in 2 segments. I was able to get a run from 3 AM in a few more hours, and even found a strategy to reduce Monstergami's difficulty in the second half of the night. Having to deal with the scrolling of the screen while dealing with Monstergami on top of the nerves at the end of the night was something that I was not looking forward to, but thankfully a player named Ultimate would invent a strategy that completely eliminates all difficulty from Monstergami in the second half of the night. Normally, upon completing Vinny's attack, we'd immediately go down under the bed to start rewinding the tape. Instead, snap directly to Monstergami and finish his attack. You'll need to move him a total of 8 times, but once you do, go down and rewind the tape as fast as possible. Now, come back up and listen for the same sound cue that you used before to determine when to come out from under the bed during the first half of the night. The game uses this same stall timer to check you for not starting the bed phase, so time your peek under the bed with the last note in Monstergami's song. Then do Vinny's bed phase attack. Now, restart the tape and continue as normal. This won't give you your full tape back, but it will give you enough to survive the second half of the night, and not having to deal with Monstergami and nerves definitely makes up for it. Honestly, when I started working on this video, I planned to say a lot more about Puppet Master All Challenges Pixel Pointer, but truth be told, I was about 4 hours into this grind and I was already looking to beat the night. I was up to a 4 AM PB now, and I felt virtually zero pressure throughout the night. Frankly, the most annoying part of the night was how boring the first half of the night was, especially the first 2 hours. Even though Rat and Cat All Challenges has more RNG, that variance is what makes the mode interesting, and to me, a lot more enjoyable. If I could get over the boredom, it shouldn't take too much longer. I had the night in 2 runs. Now, all I had to do was put it all together.
fluke from like early 4, I think. That's not too bad. I think that took 5 hours, 4 or 5.
And that was it. Wow, I had completely fluked the 5 AM hour and PMAC Pixel Pointer was done. In my opinion, this mode was a bit easier than Rat and Cat All Challenges Pixel Pointer, and the placements of the modes have been updated to reflect that. Later on, I'd even try to complete PMAC Pixel Pointer 4 AM All Night, which sets Vinny to his 4 AM movement but for the entire night. And in just 30 minutes, that also went down. Honestly, when I was first planning this video, I wanted PMAC Pixel Pointer to feel like a final boss fight, and I wanted it to be a massive struggle that I could talk about and craft a story around. PMAC Pixel Pointer is unlike almost every other mode on the list. For almost every other FNAF Max mode, the general strategy revolves around managing a bunch of different characters all at once. But PMAC Pixel Pointer isn't like that. It's you and Vinny in a straight up 1v1. And Monstergami is here too, I guess, but you get the idea. It had been so long since I had felt those initial nerves of being at 5 AM on PMAC that I wanted more. I felt like just completing Rat and Cat All Challenges and Puppet Master All Challenges Pixel Pointer wasn't narratively satisfying enough. This video's title is the quest to perfect Five Nights at Candy's 3. In my mind, perfecting Five Nights at Candy's 3 wouldn't just stop at beating both of the Pixel Pointer modes. It's being consistent enough to beat them multiple times in a row, or even back to back. And now, almost an hour into the video, I can finally reveal the true challenge of this video. It's time to beat every single Five Nights at Candy's 3 Pixel Pointer mode in a row without dying. Now, you might be a bit confused as to why I said every single Pixel Pointer mode, and not just Rat and Cat and Puppet Master. Well, there's actually a third Pixel Pointer mode in FNAC 3, but better. Aside from being a challenge in the Puppet Master night, Monstergami also has his own dedicated night within the game, accessed by entering the Puppet Master night with only Monstergami on and Vinny off, then completing his first attack and knocking over the Origami Cat on the table. This teleports you into a task-based night against Monstergami, who we can now physically see for the first time. Pretty sick design if you ask me. We are required to play the tape the whole way through in order to finish the night, while dealing with Monstergami in between to stop him from stealing the tape. Like Rat, Cat, and Vinny, Monstergami has different movement patterns on the 3 different sides of the room, but also has an intermission phase where he walks around the room. Once you complete part of his attack, the flashlight will begin flickering and Monstergami will begin walking or running depending on how late you are into the night, and you'll be forced to track him with your flashlight. Misjudge what side of the room he runs to and he'll jump scare you. For me, this is easily the hardest part of the night. If you aren't super fast with tracking Monstergami, it could easily take 2 to 3 attacks to get rid of him, by which point the purple hue from the tape being off for so long will heavily limit your visibility and ability to see Monstergami. This is especially true with how we're playing the night, since we're using the Pixel Pointer. I don't think the Monstergami night was programmed to be played with the Pixel Pointer, since the visual flashlight is still the laser pointer, but the hitbox is the Pixel Pointer hitbox. Like Monstergami in the normal Puppet Master night, the primary difficulty of Monstergami in the Monstergami night comes from the free scroll, which is now active for the entire night. This makes the middle and right sections particularly challenging, as Monstergami has by far the most distance between his movements out of any animatronic in the game. Thankfully, Monstergami has no flat-out health bar or kill timer like Rat, Cat, and Vinny do. You just have to play well enough so that you can get back to the tape player and track Monstergami during the running sections. Because of this, out of the 3 Pixel Pointer modes, Monstergami Night Pixel Pointer is by far the easiest, ranking around the same difficulty as Rat and Cat and Puppet Master All Challenges with the unnerfed laser pointer. That being said, including it on this challenge definitely added a sizable bit of difficulty, because not only was I set on beating every Pixel Pointer mode in a row, I was set on doing it in an order that would go against my established skills. I'd play Rat and Cat All Challenges first, despite it being the max mode that I had the most playtime on by far. Then Monstergami Pixel Pointer would be next, icing any momentum I might have from Rat and Cat All Challenges and working to tire me out. And finally, Puppet Master All Challenges Pixel Pointer last, to capitalize on those nerves and finally get that 1 versus 1 final boss feeling I'd been looking for all this time. If I was going to pull this off, I needed to go back and make sure I was as consistent as possible with both Rat and Cat and Puppet Master All Challenges Pixel Pointer. I couldn't just beat the modes, I needed to have a positive win rate on them. The first issue came in Rat and Cat All Challenges. Whether you like it or not, Rat and Cat All Challenges is not always winnable. Shadow Cat can just be too unfair at times to reasonably track as a human. However, when I was first attempting Rat and Cat All Challenges Pixel Pointer, I expressed that there was two main sources of RNG, Shadow Cat and the bed phase. If I ended up getting caught in the dead zone of a bed phase, it was possible that I'd lose the night from an early Rat entry or not reaching Cat at the bedside fast enough. If I could find some way to get around this and make the only source of RNG in the night Shadow Cat's attacks, I think we might have a good shot at getting reasonably consistent with this mode. So I was playing it and playing it and playing it. I was taking a shower one night and trying to think of some more consistent strategies. Then it finally hit me. The way that I went to go check Cat at the bedside was nowhere near optimal. You see, during the first part of the bed phase, when Rat is coming out from under the bed, it's best to preemptively scroll your screen to his side of the room, but then hold your cursor behind the barrier to the other side. Remember that when peeking, Rat and Cat both check the position of your cursor to determine if they're going to jump scare you, not the position of the screen. When I was going to stall Rat and get Cat out from under the bed, I would scroll the screen the whole way to the edge of the room, holding my mouse over Rat's first possible entry location. Once I heard Cat come out, I'd flick my mouse to the other side of the screen, but how fast I moved didn't matter. The screen still had to slowly scroll across the entire room to reach Shadow Cat, and oftentimes I wasn't fast enough. However, if we apply the same technique that we use for Rat and preemptively scroll the screen to Cat's side, then hold our mouse pointer on the left side of the screen on Rat's first entry location, we can reach Shadow Cat way faster. This completely covers the dead zone for bedside manipulation. Now, we only need to perform bedside manipulation if Cat's humming sound is loud before we go over to flash Rat. With this optimization, we've completely eliminated all RNG at the bedside, something that was my main issue with the mode when I was trying to get my first win. Around this time, I also began attempting some self-imposed challenges on Rat and Cat All Challenges Pixel Pointer. And I'll tell you one thing about max modes, if you want to get hyper consistent with a mode, playing a significantly harder self-imposed challenge of that mode is the best way to do it. After a good bit of training, I'd rarely die to Shadow Cat anymore. I'd hit perfect predictions nearly every attack, and I had totally eliminated bedside RNG within the night. As a test for this video, I played 4 runs of Rat and Cat All Challenges, and won 3 of them. I now had a positive win rate, and I had completely conquered 2 of the 3 nights in our gauntlet. But the third one was beginning to give me some trouble. When I covered Puppet Master All Challenges Pixel Pointer earlier in this video, it kinda seemed like a bit of a pushover, at least compared to Rat and Cat. And I thought that's how it would be here. Maybe I would end up losing to it a few times near the end due to nerves, but nothing too crazy. However, as I began to practice for every Pixel Pointer mode in a row, I realized that this wasn't the case. It's one thing to beat a max mode one time and then move on. I know a lot of players that do this, and for some max modes I do it myself. You learn it, play it, eventually beat it, then reflect on your experience with it for future max modes. But to truly understand and feel a max mode at its deepest level, you have to go beyond just beating it once. You can beat it multiple times in a row, green run it, or add self-imposed challenges to it that push the difficulty miles ahead of what was intended. That is how you truly master a max mode. When I was initially beating Puppet Master All Challenges Pixel Pointer, it felt like it wasn't all that hard, but revisiting it and going from that initial familiarity to consistency and mastery was proving much harder than any other mode I'd previously done this with. And I think out of everything, this just comes down to enjoyment. And Puppet Master All Challenges is boring as hell. Think of a max mode like Hopeless Pursuit, where there's always something to do and think about, or even Rat and Cat All Challenges, constantly switching between Cat, Classic Cat, Rat, and all the different strategies to deal with the bed phase. All of these aspects keep these max modes fresh and interesting. Once I had figured out how to reduce the bedside RNG of Rat and Cat, I had no issues practicing harder and getting good enough at Rat and Cat All Challenges to beat it multiple times in a row and complete self-imposed challenges on the mode. But Puppet Master All Challenges has almost no variation. The first 2 hours feel like a cutscene that you have to wait through every single time you want to play the mode, and the tiniest bit of drag or sweat on your mouse hand will cause you to miss Vinny licking the floor on the right side of the room and instantly die. I know there's a lot of characters in max modes that are pretty much rage bait incarnate, but this entire mode feels like it was designed to spike your cortisol to lethal levels. Massive disclaimer, this joke was made before the low cortisol meme went mainstream. I promise I have not fallen off and I am still funny. Man, these memes, they progress too fast these days, bro. Anyone remember like Ugandan Knuckles and that was relevant for like a whole month? God, I'm getting old, man. When you're already pissed off from having to sit through a 2-hour cutscene, and then you miss the rewind button on the tape, or are slightly off with Monstergami, and you get hit with that, there is no feeling like it. This was something that I had struggled with before. In the early days of my channel, and even later on, the FNAF lock challenge was made up of 90% Springtrap RNG and 10% everything else. And it was very easy to get tilted just watching Springtrap not listen to your lures for an hour straight. But Puppet Master All Challenge's pixel pointer isn't even luck-based. In fact, it's winnable 100% of the time. But for the life of me, I just could not figure out why I was losing so much. One day I went out for a walk and I was thinking about what I should do. I decided that I was going to get so disgustingly consistent with anything even remotely related to this stupid puppet, and by the time I got another run to Puppet Master All Challenges, it wasn't going to waste. I took a look at all the modes on the all modes list that involve Vinny, and started grinding some of the hardest ones. Modes to train my precision, modes to train my speed, modes to train my nerve control, and modes that require tracking so precise you might as well say Vinny is cheating. I beat Puppet Master All Challenge's pixel pointer 4 AM all night and 5 AM all night, training every single hour to make sure that I was consistent. And once I was ready, I booted up one more run, and that run would soon get past Rat and Cat and Monstergami pixel pointer. Now it was time to see if my training had paid off. No! Oh my god, no, what the f- Oh, I was so in it, bro. Gay! Oh my god, dude, I was so prepared. I'd had one more bed phase and that was pretty much it. It wasn't even right side either, it was mid, dude. Well, at the very least, the goal of making Vinny feel more like a final boss had definitely been accomplished. The curse continues, and with the added nerves of a real run, a loss so close to the end is always to be expected. The name Pixel Pointer is a bit on the nose here, because really, you could be as close as 1 pixel off of the hitbox, and that minute precision error is all it takes. At the very least, I knew that my training had paid off. My previous personal best was 3 AM on Vinny, so the win was very much in my grasp. Now it was just a question of how long it was going to take to get there. So I waited and waited, and if I'm being honest, things weren't getting any better. It probably doesn't help that I decided now of all times to switch up my mouse sensitivity, which in a game that's almost 100% aiming wasn't going to go over well until I properly adjusted. Not only that, but I was reaching the point where my brain began to go into panic mode. New viewers on this channel might not be familiar with the Rage era, but during this era when I was first getting popular on YouTube, I had some of the most insane rages. Honestly, I don't even know if you could call these rages, more so just insane outbursts of stress. No! No! I had largely gotten these outbursts under control over the next year or so, aside from some extremely tragic failures. Though the reason for these outbursts is often misunderstood. On the surface, it was the video game, but underneath, it had to do with all the pressure and stress of deadlines on videos. When I was first coming up, getting videos out consistently was so important to me to guarantee that my channel would keep growing. I was constantly tweaked out and scared that if I didn't get a video out within the next week or 2 weeks, my viewers would dwindle and my one opportunity to pursue this as a full-time career would fade away. Fast forward to today, and my videos are much grander than before. They take longer. Challenges that were worthy of entire videos before are now less than stepping stones to a main channel video today. But the pressure of deadlines is still the same. Instead of weeks, it's now months. And at this point in my grind, the most recent video that I had uploaded was now a month old, and the pressure began to seep in. Now, anytime that I would fail, my confidence would get absolutely shattered, and with a DPI shift, this was going to be happening a lot. It was pretty much a cycle of die, be angry and nervous because you die, panic, then repeat. Pair this with by far my hardest and most time-consuming college schedule yet, and this was not a fun time. Not being self-aware of this cycle meant that I would convince myself into thinking that I was completely doomed as a player, and then keep playing for another 30 minutes to an hour, dying to absolute bullshit because of it. Even when I would try to think of other things, or realize that I was able to get back to 5 AM on PMAC, it genuinely seemed hopeless. Hey, wait a sec. I had been here with other videos in the past, and it's something that makes me really upset. I don't know how many of you follow my other channels or stalk my AML profile, but I actually beat a lot of modes that don't get turned into videos, either just for fun or to try to get some AML points so I don't fall off the leaderboard completely as I turn into an unk. Man, I am really now 21 years old, still playing FNAF. Whenever I play a max mode knowing full well that it isn't going to be turned into a video, I will absolutely steamroll it, and funnily enough, that's how this video started out. When I beat Rat and Cat All Challenges and Puppet Master All Challenges Pixel Pointer for the first time, they were never even planned to make it onto the main channel. Of course, they would eventually in something larger that I'm working up to, but never as a dedicated video. And the second that I decided, hey, this is worthy of a main channel video, why don't I combine these 3 modes together into a gauntlet challenge for a good send-off? It instantly became 10 times harder. I've tried to mitigate this by shifting how I play modes and how I make videos. I've now turned the second channel into a channel that has actual content on it instead of just raw completion videos. The videos are edited to the same standard as these main channel videos, just with max modes, challenges, or other variety videos that I have planned where the stakes are lower, and nowhere near as difficult. I'm hoping that over time, knowing that eventually everything will become a video and thus have the pressure of some deadline over me, I'll be able to get over it. But even after 2 years of doing this stuff, this is a problem that I still haven't figured out how to solve. Even with this poor mentality, raw brute force saw me getting a few runs to Puppet Master All Challenges, and soon I had another shot to end it. What? How is that a death? How is that a death? Oh my god, in what world? In what world is that a death? No, there's no way. There's no way. Oh my god. That was the perfect ending. I had the hardest pattern. No, there's no way. I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. Like, I mean, I'll look back, but dude, I swear, that doesn't even... Oh my god. I was a tiny bit off twice, and he alternated 3 times. Did he do any instant movements either? No, he sat there and f***ing waited, bro. How close is that to the end of the night? It can't be that far, dude. There's no way, dude. What the the night, bro, okay.
Sure, man. That's some divine shit right there. If the night would usually end mid-bed phase, and then I get the bed phase from Tartarus, and then no, you can't make that one up, dude. That's crazy. That is actually insane.
If my mentality wasn't already bad enough, this completely destroyed it. It's one thing to have a fail when you're nervous. That's 100% expected to happen. And with my track record, I completely understood that. It's another thing to have a fail happen after those nerves go away, and when you think to yourself that it's finally over. You finally got past the hardest part in the night, and then you die anyway. This has only happened to me 2 times ever. Hopeless Greed 559.6, what I would consider one of the worst fails in FNAF history, and right now, Puppet Master Alt Challenge's Pixel Pointer 751 at the end of a triple Pixel Pointer run. Not only should this death have not even happened in a normal Pixel Pointer run, I was confused as to what I even did wrong. Sure, I had stuttered a bit, but I had played way worse on other bed phases before and been completely okay. Well, to understand that, we have to go a bit deeper into how the 3 AM bed phase works. Similar to Rat and Cat, Vinny has a flash time before he moves, but really he leans more in the direction of how Cat works than Rat, because guess what? It's random. For the first movement that he makes, he'll always take exactly 40 frames with the flashlight on his hitbox. For every movement after that, he can take anywhere from 1 frame to 20 frames. Along with this, he has 2 kill timers. If you're off the hitbox for a total of 4.5 seconds, you will die. And if you don't move him at least 11 times before 7 seconds have passed, you will also die. Now, doesn't this seem a tiny bit unfair? Let's say Vinny decides to wait 15 frames or more every time that he moves. Now, those 7 seconds are going to be counting down while we're waiting for his fat ass to move. Throw in Vinny constantly switching sides so you have to deal with the free scroll under the bed along with the absurdly small pixel pointer hitbox, and you have a recipe for disaster. With this knowledge, let's look at the last 5 AM bed phase again. I'm so petty, we're gonna frame count it. When the attack begins, Vinny rolls in order 20 frames, 11 frames, 12 frames, 17 frames, 13 frames, 20 frames, 17 frames, 18 frames, and 12 frames. The chance of this exact pattern happening is well into the billions, but any exact pattern would also share this same extremely low chance, which is why using this kind of logic doesn't really work and leads to insanely large figures that aren't really representative of the true luck. In our case, we want to calculate the chances that Vinny gives us this pattern or any pattern worse than this. If we take all of the values that Vinny gave us and average them, we get 15.56. The expected average for this range would be 10.5, which we are considerably above. If we take the standard deviation of 1 roll, then extrapolate that to 9 rolls, we get a z-score of 2.63. Running that through a z-score table, that comes out to the top 0.44% of outcomes, roughly a 1 in 250 chance. And with a tiny bit of mild stuttering on my end, combined with a 31% chance of Vinny deciding to alternate sides 3 times or more under the bed, and I was just short of the 7-second universal bed phase timer, with it running out when I was around 3/4 into the last movement. I was 0.25 seconds away from winning, and I just couldn't close it out. If we combine the RNG from Vinny's flash timers and him deciding to continuously alternate sides under the bed, we get a figure that's worse than the iconic Nightmare Foxy death in the FNAF lock, and anything I've ever gotten in FNAF 3. So move over Springtrap because we have a new prime antagonist for this channel. And don't worry, his final boss status will only get crazier as time goes on. At the time of playing this challenge, I hadn't calculated the odds of this attack yet. I had only thought to do so when I got to writing this part in the script. At this point mentally, I just thought that I had died purely to my own skill, which killed my motivation even more. School was killing me, this video was killing me, and I felt like I was just going to be locked in a state of misery until this challenge was done. It wasn't until I had some consolation from my girlfriend and realized, no, even if this video does take a while to come out, I think I'll survive. The largest gap between videos I had was nearly 4 months. I had to have trust in my fan base that they wouldn't just up and leave because I hadn't uploaded for a while. If that was the case, some of the largest scale projects I've had on this channel and the videos that I'm the most proud of today wouldn't be able to exist. I had to keep my head on straight and realize that it was just a speed bump and some RNG. RNG that cost me quite a bit of time, but still, it's just RNG. I knew that with enough patience, eventually I would get back there, and 2 days later, with a bit more time to adjust to my new settings, things were looking promising. But as I inched closer and closer to the last bed phase, my nerves felt different than they ever had before. They were completely out of control. The deadline pressure, the thought of trapping myself in a poor mental cycle, it was all too much.
God damn it! Oh my God, why can't I f***ing do that?
This time around, the RNG wasn't even that bad. Sure, he switched sides a few times, but his wait times weren't horrible. But you can see from the reaction how little control I had over my emotions at this point. And judging from the Monstergami attack before, my flicking was nowhere near on point. Not only had I now died at 5 AM on PMAC Pixel Pointer 3 separate times, 2 of which within the last 10 seconds of winning, but I had also formed a complete mental wall over the last bed phase specifically. My nerves would normally dissipate after the last 5 AM attack, allowing me to calmly deal with the last bed phase. Now, they'd start at 4 AM, shoot up even further at 5 AM, and reach an all-time high at the 5 AM bed phase. The reaction to this death the second time around was a little bit different. It was louder, but also it was rooted more so in anger, not sadness. I didn't know what happened in my thought process, but this might have been the key to finally getting over that mental block. Rather than stressing about and beating this challenge before the deadline, I had a deep internal drive to get back to that 5 AM and prove that no, I can handle this last bed phase, and I can keep my nerves under control. If I'm going to stay at the top level in these games, I need to work on my nerve control, even when the challenge that I'm doing has a deadline and the pressure of being turned into a full-fledged video. I knew that I was going to get back here. I practiced and practiced and practiced the bed phase. I did it 15 times in a row, swearing that the next time that I got here, I was going to prove that I could handle it.
Wait. Oh my god, it's over. Holy shit. Bro, I thought to myself that I had to have been frames off of that bed phase death. I thought to myself, give me all you've got, bro. Give me all you've got. And I fucking did it, bro. Oh my god. That's it. Mental block broken. And that is the first official FNAC Pantheon progress. The FNAC 3 section done in one run. Everyone subscribe right now. Subscribe to this channel, the second channel, and the VODs channel. Because that's worth it. Like we deserve that right there. Thank the Lord, it was finally over. I'm telling you, do what that guy said. If that doesn't deserve a sub on both channels, I don't know what does. But let's step back a bit. What did I say at the end of the completion? And that is the first official FNAC Pantheon progress. That's right, this entire video has just been the very start of my next supermassive project. Way back when I made a video on the FNAC Gauntlet, something that is now considered to be on par with PMAC OG Laser Pointer, I talked about an idea to make my own Candy's Gauntlet, one that will be a challenge far beyond anything that I've done before. I wanted to name it the True Gauntlet, after the naming scheme of the arena and the True Arena from Kirby games. But that True Gauntlet would eventually get added to the base Gauntlet game, and though it was a good bit harder, it wasn't really enough to live up to what I had in mind for a new FNAC Gauntlet. As time went on, more and more things got in the way. Unexpected events in my life led me to taking on other high caliber challenges before I could direct my focus back to Five Nights at Candy's. And now, by the time that I was ready to return, my overall FNAF skill had increased far beyond what the True Gauntlet had to offer. I always wanted the True Gauntlet to scale to whatever skill level I had managed to reach. So I decided that it was time to hyperbuff the Gauntlet even more, into the Five Nights at Candy's Pantheon. A series of extremely difficult challenges in all of the FNAC but better games, many of which can take anywhere from 10 to 30 hours to complete just on their own, back to back, deathless. And of course, at the very end of the FNAC Pantheon, Vinny will be waiting for us again. This was merely the first significant progress that I have made, getting from about 60% of the way through to 100% of the way through all in one run. But I am far from being able to complete the full-scale Pantheon. As I raise my skill level in the other two Candy's games, you can expect to see videos like this on them that reveal the exact modes I'll be putting in the Pantheon before I start full Pantheon attempts. I know the True Gauntlet never coming out has been a running joke on my channel, but I just got distracted with so many other things throughout last year, and now that things have settled down again, I was finally able to direct some attention towards the project. With that being said, if it could rank, where would this run place on the list? Honestly, I'm not sure. The whole difficulty of this challenge came from the fact there was a deadline attached to it, and that I'm really bad with progressive difficulty max modes. If you were to take any other really talented FNAC 3 player and swap the order from Rat and Cat All Challenges first to Rat and Cat All Challenges last, they'd probably have a harder time with it, as based on RNG alone, Rat and Cat All Challenges is much less consistent than Puppet Master All Challenges. But for me specifically, I was far better at Rat and Cat All Challenges, so putting it first worked against my consistency. Monstergami was then placed in the middle to ice out any momentum I might have going into PMAC, then there was the crazy buildup of nerves all throughout PMAC, leading to the precise tracking and bed phases of hours 3, 4, and 5. It was a lot. I had tailored this challenge to be as difficult as possible specifically for me. If you're anyone else but me, I'd say this would probably be around the same difficulty as Hopeless Pursuit or maybe even some lower end Hopeless Pursuit self-imposed challenges. Definitely above Hopeless Pursuit, but not by much. However, if you are me specifically, I'd put this above Max Mode No Buffs and Hopeless Pursuit No Fan. Not quite Hopeless Greed or Max Mode No Buffs twice in a row level, but it's definitely getting there. And hey, once the full Pantheon is assembled, God knows how long that's gonna take. Who knows how difficult it may be. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you'd like to see more videos like this, make sure to check out not only this channel, but also the first edited video I've made on the second channel on a completely unique FNAF fan game that I've never covered before. Thanks again for your time. Peace.